The Indianapolis Colts just turned into a serious problem for the rest of the AFC, and almost nobody is ready for it. This is not a cute surprise season or a lucky run. This is an offense that can push the ball, control the clock, and punch you in the mouth at the same time. The run game keeps driving forward. The receivers are winning in space, and they are doing it in every kind of environment. Indoors, cold weather, loud stadiums, it does not matter. You watch a full game and it feels less like a hot streak and more like a team that finally knows exactly what it is built to do. At the center of it all is a quarterback who looks calmer every single week. He is not chasing highlight plays. He is managing pressure, finding the easy throws, taking smart shots when the defense slips, and matching the moment when the game gets tight. That kind of control is what makes this offense dangerous. When the line gives him time, he can dice up soft zones. When protection breaks down, he can extend and still find answers. Paired with a physical ground attack that travels anywhere, it gives the Colts a playoff-style identity long before the playoffs even start. Then you look at the other side of the ball and the picture gets even scarier. A defense that already hits hard is about to get key pieces back, and special teams just added a proven all-pro weapon who can flip field position in the moments that decide seasons. This is the kind of roster shape that contenders want in the stretch run, not a team that is supposed to fade. So if the Colts look this strong on the field, with this kind of balance on offense, defense, and special teams, why does it still feel like the rest of the league and the national media are acting like they are not real yet? But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Colts and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 300 likes on this video. Turn on any talk show right now and you will hear the same names again and again. People talk about Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, maybe Houston or Denver when they want a fresh story. The Colts barely get a mention, and when they do, it feels like a quick side note, not a serious conversation. That is the life of a non-glamour franchise. They win, they grind, they stack solid games, but the big lights keep drifting back to the brands the league has sold for years. Because of that, a lot of casual fans still think this rise from Indianapolis is some kind of short hot streak. They hear that the schedule has not been that bad, or that the momentum will fade once the pressure climbs, and they just accept it. Colts fans know that feeling where they have to keep explaining why this group is not a fluke. They watch a full 4 quarters, see the way this team answers big moments, and then jump online and find people still talking like nothing has changed. That gap between what the film shows and what people say is exactly where doubt grows. The funny part is, this story falls apart the second you stop repeating old assumptions and actually study the standings. When you look at who the Colts have already beaten, where they have done it, and how they stack up in the conference race next to teams like the Texans, Broncos, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Bills, and Jaguars, the picture becomes very different. The narrative of a nice surprise season does not match the real position they hold right now. So to really see how far off the public view has become, you have to zoom in on where Indianapolis sits in the AFC table and what that means for every contender around them. On paper, the Indianapolis Colts are not some fringe wildcard hope. They are already sitting in the thick of the AFC race. With 8 wins in 10 games, they belong in the same conversation as the teams that usually get all the attention. They are not hanging around the edge of the bracket. They are parked in that top cluster where one result can flip who is chasing and who is being chased. When you look at the conference table, you do not see a lucky story. You see a team that has quietly moved into real power territory. The story gets clearer when you track who they have faced. Their 2 losses came against the Los Angeles Rams and the Pittsburgh Steelers, both physical groups that live in tough games. Their wins include taking down the Denver Broncos and blasting the Los Angeles Chargers, which matters a lot more than beating up on weak rosters. That head-to-head result over Denver is huge, because anytime the records match, that tiebreaker can push Indianapolis ahead of a direct rival. Put it all together, and the Colts sit there as a team that has already traded blows with playoff-level opponents and proven they can hold their ground. Now zoom out and look at the wider traffic jam around them. There is a row of hungry AFC sides trying to climb, from the Texans and Jaguars in the South race to familiar names like the Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Bills and Broncos fighting for position. One bad month can drop you. One strong run can launch you into a prime seed. In that kind of chaos, the Colts have something that matters more than hype. They have leverage. The real question is what happens next, because the stretch of games waiting on their schedule has been labeled the toughest road in the conference, and that is where the entire season might flip. When you pull up the rest of the Indianapolis Colts schedule, it looks like something a rival fan would design as a joke. A trip to Arrowhead to face Kansas City in that loud Red Sea. 2 huge showdowns with the Houston Texans, who are chasing the same prize. 2 more with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who still believe they can flip the division. On top of that, cross-conference clashes with the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers, who almost always play desperate late in the year. Every name on that list feels like a real threat, not a soft spot on the calendar. Because of that, the loud reaction from a lot of people is simple. They see this stretch as the moment everything collapses. They say that the noise in Arrowhead will rattle this group, that the South rivals will catch fire, that trips against physical teams like Seattle and San Francisco will drain the Colts before the postseason even arrives. It gets framed as a trap path where one mistake sends you sliding down the conference table. The story that floats around is that this run is too rough, too crowded, and that a team from a smaller market will not survive it. What almost nobody does is pause and look at how this line of games actually fits together for Indianapolis. The order of the opponents, the mix of division battles and conference tests, and the timing of when these teams are fighting for their own lives all create a pattern that is very different from the lazy panic take. Once you look at the full picture with real numbers, playoff odds, and remaining strength of schedule data, the so-called gauntlet stops looking like a trap and starts to feel like something else entirely. That is where the real twist waits, because the math on this stretch quietly tips in favor of the Colts instead of against them. When Sports Illustrated dropped its strength of schedule update, a lot of people only saw the headline line. The Indianapolis Colts sit at the very top of the difficulty chart for the AFC, with the Texans, Chargers, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Bills, Broncos, and Jaguars stacked in behind them. On the surface, that sounds like a problem, almost like the league handed this team a punishment for winning early. But if you look closer, that same graphic quietly admits something the talk shows do not want to say out loud. The path for the Colts is brutal for one simple reason. They have earned their way into a fight with serious contenders. Now think about what that actually means when you plug it into the season story. Instead of coasting through soft matchups, Indianapolis will spend the rest of the year trading punches with opponents that are also chasing playoff spots and division titles. Every one of those games comes with playoff-level focus, playoff-level film work, and playoff speed. While other teams inflate their records against broken rosters, the Colts are sharpening every weak spot in real time. By the time January arrives, a group that already owns real wins over strong competition will have lived through pressure moments that you simply cannot fake in practice. The wild part is that the probability models actually back this up. Even if the Colts drop the Kansas City game, their playoff chances sit around 89%. If they walk into Arrowhead and steal that one, the number jumps close to 98%. In other words, the same data that calls their road the toughest also says that road almost certainly ends in postseason football. That is not a curse. That is a proving ground. The only real question left is how this constant run of high-intensity games will shape them. Because the way this schedule is built turns the rest of the season into one long playoff rehearsal. For the Indianapolis Colts, the last part of this season feels less like a normal run of games and more like a string of elimination nights. You start with a trip into Kansas City's home field, where the crowd treats every snap like the season depends on it. That is not just another road game. That is the exact noise, pressure, and chaos you feel in January. You come out of that and there is no let-up. Every week after that carries a new kind of weight, and every mistake can flip positions in the table in a way that feels very close to win or go home. Then you move into the heart of the division story. Matchups with Houston and Jacksonville are not simple standings battles. They are emotional tests where both sides know that one swing can decide who wears the crown in the South. Drives late in the fourth quarter start to look and feel like mini playoff series. You have to close games on defense, burn the clock on offense, and handle strange momentum shifts without losing your head. After that, Trips to places like Seattle and San Francisco bring another layer, where you deal with physical fronts, long travel, and hostile crowds that want to break your rhythm from the first play. By the time you reach the end of this stretch, you are either worn down or you are something much stronger. A team that survives this kind of path learns how to manage tempo, react to big swings on the scoreboard, and trust its identity when the stadium gets tight. That is the hidden value of this layout. It squeezes out every weakness in real time. The only thing that decides whether the Colts can fully cash in on that test is the quality of the bodies on the field, and that is where the wave of returning defenders and new depth pieces starts to change the picture in a huge way. Right when the schedule turns mean, the Indianapolis Colts are not watching bodies disappear, they are watching them walk back onto the field. At corner, Charvarius Ward has been cleared to return to full work after dealing with a serious second concussion earlier in the year, and that changes the entire feel of the secondary. He is long, physical at the catch point, and he understands how to stay calm when quarterbacks try to test him deep. When you picture him lining up against the receivers in Kansas City, Houston, or Jacksonville, you can feel how different third down looks with a trusted cover man back in that spot. Linebacker Jalen Carleys brings another layer this defense has been missing. He came into the league as a defensive back. Now he plays closer to the box. And that mix gives the staff a piece they can use against tight ends and running backs who punish slower players in space. Add Samson Ebukam getting back into drills, and suddenly the edge rush rotation has more juice, more speed, and fresher legs in the fourth quarter. That matters when your interior star is still working his way back and you need pressure from everywhere instead of from a single name in the middle. This is not just about names on a list. It is about restoring balance in every level of the unit. All of this arrives at the exact moment the games start to feel like elimination football, which is why it is such a huge swing. A deeper defensive backroom lets the coordinator stay aggressive. A more flexible linebacker group allows you to disguise coverages without blowing assignments. Extra heat on the edge means 1 or 2 key sacks that can flip a drive in a loud stadium. And the front office did not stop there. While the defense heals up, they also went out and grabbed a familiar face who has made a living changing games on special teams. And that quiet move might end up being just as important as any big name coming off injured reserve. That familiar face is George Odom, and his return says a lot about how serious the Indianapolis Colts are about the small details that win in January. Odom is not just another depth safety. He is a 2-time Pro Bowl level special teams ace with a long track record of open field tackles and smart lane control on kicks and punts. Since he entered the league, he has sat near the very top of the sport in special teams stops, which means he lives in the exact plays that swing field position. Bringing him back right now is not a feel-good story. It is a clear message that the Colts want every single yard on special units to tilt their way when games get tight. Put all of this together and you see a clear pattern. The Colts are not chasing headlines. They are building a roster that can survive long games, sudden swings, and the chaos that comes with playoff football. A sharper coverage unit, tougher interior depth, fresher pass rushers, and elite special teams tackling all add up to a team that is harder to break when the clock winds down. The funny part is that a lot of people will only notice once the postseason bracket locks in and they realize this was never a cute story. It was a slow, careful build into a contender, and the real question now is how far from a group like this can push once they finally get that ticket to the tournament.